Parents put me up for adoption as a kid because I was a boy. After 20 years, they contacted me. My tale starts with the echoes of a past that, until recently, I'd kept locked away. You see, I wasn't exactly welcomed into this world with open arms. No, I was the surprise package, the unplanned addition to a family already stretched thin. They had their hands full with my 2 elder sisters, and then, there I was, the unexpected burden. Growing up, I didn't understand the complexities of it all, but I could feel the weight of their disappointment. My parents wanted another daughter, another hand-me-down recipient to save a few bucks on clothing, but fate had other plans, and I emerged as a boy, much to their dismay. They dressed me in my sister's discarded garments, sending me off to school with a target on my back. The ridicule was relentless, but my protests fell on deaf ears. Instead of compassion, I received punishment, a cycle of abuse that became my norm. One fateful day, pushed to the brink by the torment of my peers and the neglect of my own family, I snapped. Scissors in hand, I shredded the symbols of their expectations, an act of defiance born from a lifetime of rejection. Their response was swift and decisive. I was cast aside, deemed unworthy of their love. For weeks they searched for someone willing to take me in, but no one stepped forward. The rejection stung, a constant reminder of my unwanted status. Then a glimmer of hope appeared in the form of a humble couple, Mary and John. They had longed for a child of their own, but had been denied by fate. When my biological parents offered me up for adoption, they welcomed me with open arms. Life with Mary and John was a revelation, a stark contrast to the turmoil I had known. They nurtured me, showered me with love, and instilled in me a sense of worth I had never known. It was a slow process, rebuilding the shattered pieces of my self-esteem, but with their guidance, I flourished. As the years passed, I found my footing, excelling in school and embracing the opportunity for a brighter future. Mary and John encouraged my dreams, sacrificing their own comfort to ensure my success, and succeed I did. Armed with their unwavering support and a determination to carve out my own path, I forged ahead, building a thriving business from the ground up. But just when I thought the past was firmly behind me, it came knocking once again. My biological parents resurfaced, their motives murky and their demands relentless. They sought to exploit the success I had achieved in spite of their abandonment, viewing me as nothing more than a means to an end. Faced with their manipulation and greed, I made a choice. I chose to sever ties with those who had cast me aside to protect myself from further harm. It was a decision born not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. So here I stand, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. I may have been discarded once, but I refuse to be defined by the actions of others. My life is my own, and I will not let the ghosts of my past dictate my future. It's been a roller coaster of emotions ever since my biological parents reappeared in my life. And just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, they hit me with a request for money to fund my sister's education. Now, I don't know if it's guilt, pity, or some twisted sense of obligation, but part of me still feels bad for them. After all, they're my blood, right? But then again, blood doesn't determine family. I talked it over with Mary and John, and they were supportive, as always. Mary cautioned me to be wary, and John reminded me that it was my call. So, after much deliberation, I decided to take the plunge and help them out, against my better judgment perhaps. I transferred the money to my mother's account, hoping it would alleviate their financial woes. But alas, my hopes were dashed, when just a week later my mother called again. This time it wasn't a heartfelt thank you. No, it was another demand, this time disguised as a request for a family reunion. Apparently my sisters were eager to reconnect. Yeah, right. It was crystal clear what they were after, more of my hard-earned cash. I reluctantly agreed to meet them at a fancy restaurant, the kind of place that screams expensive. And guess who ended up footing the bill? Yep, yours truly. They didn't even have the decency to invite me home. Instead, it was all about the lavish dinner, paid for by yours truly. Needless to say, I left that evening feeling more disillusioned than ever. But Mary was there to lend an ear, as always. She reminded me not to be a fool and to focus on my own life. And you know what? She was right. So, I cut off contact with them, and surprisingly, they didn't put up much of a fight. Guess they got the message loud and clear. I wasn't their cash cow anymore. And then, just when I thought I was done with their drama, my mother called again, this time with a new demand funding my sister's college education. I mean, seriously? I couldn't believe the audacity. But I stood my ground, refusing to be manipulated any further. So there you have it, the saga of my biological parents and their shameless attempts to bleed me dry. But you know what? I've got my real family, Mary and John, who've been there for me through thick and thin. And as for my so-called biological family, well, they can take a hike. Standing at this emotional crossroad, I find myself engulfed in a whirlwind of conflicting feelings, questioning the validity of my recent decision. Severing ties with my biological parents was undoubtedly one of the most challenging choices I've ever made, yet deep down, I know it was imperative for my own mental and emotional well-being. The realization dawned upon me that while I yearned for a sense of familial belonging and affection, sometimes the family we select for ourselves transcends the bonds of blood. John and Mary, despite not sharing a genetic connection with me, have been the unwavering pillars of support throughout my life's tumultuous journey. Their unwavering love, unwavering guidance, and unrelenting belief in my potential have played an instrumental role in shaping me into the resilient individual I am today. In the darkest moments of despair, they stood by my side, offering solace and encouragement, instilling within me the courage to pursue my aspirations. Reflecting upon the myriad twists and turns of my past, I've come to the profound realization that forgiveness does not necessarily equate to reconciliation. It's about relinquishing the burdensome shackles of resentment and embracing the liberating power of moving forward. Though the scars of my upbringing may still linger, I've made peace with the adversities that once threatened to derail my trajectory. Undoubtedly, there exist fleeting instances of doubt and remorse, but amidst the tempest of uncertainties, I choose to anchor myself to the buoyant shores of optimism. I am resolute in my determination to channel my focus toward the radiant facets of my existence, the boundless love of my adoptive parents, the flourishing success of my entrepreneurial endeavors, and the unparalleled freedom to chart my own destiny. For within the tapestry of my life, I've woven a narrative of resilience and self-empowerment, one that no external force, not even the specter of my biological lineage, can diminish. Thus, as I stand poised at the threshold of tomorrow, I do so with an unwavering sense of hope and anticipation. For while the canvas of my life may lack the strokes of conventional familial ties, it is adorned with the vibrant hues of self-respect and inner tranquility. And in the grand tapestry of existence, I find myself eternally grateful for the profound riches bestowed upon me. My parents put me up for adoption when I was just a kid, all because I happened to be born a boy. Fast forward 20 years, and they suddenly show up out of the blue, asking for money to fund my sister's education. Can you believe the nerve? Let me take you back to when I was a little guy, barely 6 years old. I was the third wheel in my family, with 2 older sisters already stealing the spotlight. But being the unplanned addition, I wasn't exactly welcomed with open arms. Nope. I was more like an inconvenience, a mistake they couldn't undo. And boy, did I feel it. My parents wanted a girl, you see. They had this grand idea of me wearing hand-me-downs from my sisters, saving them a few bucks. But when I popped out a boy, they weren't too thrilled. Dressing me in girls' clothes and sending me off to school like that? Yeah, that was embarrassing as heck. And when I tried to speak up, all I got was a smackdown from my mom. But there was one day that changed everything for me. I was getting teased at school, and when I came home to find my sisters with new clothes, I lost it. I took a pair of scissors and went to town on those clothes like there was no tomorrow. Was it the right thing to do? Probably not. But I was tired of being treated like a second-class citizen in my own home. That stunt landed me on the adoption market. My parents were desperate to offload me to anyone who would take me. And after a month of waiting, they found a taker, a couple running a food van in the next town over. They were older and poorer than my folks, but they were willing to give me a shot. And you know what? They turned out to be the family I never knew I needed. Mary and John, that's what I call them now. They took me in and showed me what real love and support looked like. They may not have had much, but they gave me everything they had. And when it came time for college, they pushed me to pursue my dreams, even if it meant putting their own retirement on hold. So imagine my surprise when my biological parents waltzed back into my life, hands outstretched, asking for a handout. And you know what's even worse? They didn't even have the decency to apologize for abandoning me all those years ago. Nope. They just expected me to fork over the cash like it was no big deal. I fell for it, though. I sent them the money thinking maybe they had changed. But surprise, surprise, they hadn't. They just wanted to bleed me dry, $1 at a time. And when they came crawling back for more, I finally had enough. I told them where to stick it and cut them out of my life for good. So, yeah, call me heartless if you want. But I've got a family now, a real one, and I'll be damned if I let those leeches anywhere near them. Following that unsettling conversation with my biological mother, a whirlwind of emotions engulfed me, leaving me rattled and disconcerted. Despite my attempts to immerse myself in work, her words persisted, echoing incessantly within the recesses of my mind. As the evening descended, and her name flashed across my phone screen once more, I hesitated, torn between the desire to confront her and the instinct to evade further turmoil. Ultimately, I summoned the courage to answer, determined to confront her manipulative overtures head-on. With practiced finesse, she embarked upon her familiar plea, beseeching me to finance my sister's collegiate pursuits. The audacity of her request left me dumbfounded, as if she believed our shared genetic lineage entitled her to exploit my resources at her whims. But I had reached my threshold. In no uncertain terms, I rebuffed her entreaties, adamantly refusing to subsidize my sister's education. I underscored the glaring incongruity of assuming such a responsibility, particularly in light of their prior abandonment and callous disregard for my well-being. Predictably, her response was steeped in manipulative rhetoric, laden with attempts to instill guilt and obligation. Yet, I remained resolute, unwavering in my conviction that my allegiance lay solely with those who had nurtured and supported me, my cherished guardians, John and Mary. As for my biological progenitors, they remained naught but ephemeral specters, devoid of any meaningful connection. Undeterred by her vitriolic diatribes and hollow reproaches, I stood my ground, asserting my autonomy and repudiating their calculated machinations. In the final moments of our exchange, I uttered the terse declaration that it was, indeed, a wrong number, severing the tenuous tether that bound us. In the aftermath of this cathartic confrontation, a profound sense of liberation washed over me, imbuing me with newfound clarity and resolve. Despite the inevitable accusations of selfishness and callousness that may ensue, I refused to acquiesce to their predations any longer. Their abandonment marked the irrevocable dissolution of our familial bond, and I refused to be ensnared by their manipulative designs. For me, the true essence of family resides not in shared genetics, but in the enduring bonds of love, compassion, and mutual respect cultivated by John and Mary. Henceforth, I shall continue to cherish and uphold the sanctity of these genuine familial ties, relegating my biological progenitors to the annals of distant memory.